Thank you, Julie. There was indeed a close relationship not only between Senator Stevens and Senator Inouye, but also between Senator Inouye and the Alaska Native people. I think he visited Alaska more often than almost any other place except his home state of Hawaii. Our next theme for this symposium is a focus on values, community, and family. These were core values that the senator shared with so many people in Indian country. And it was that sharing of values, the respect for family, and the work and friendship of community that enabled him to work so effectively and to take his direction from Native people as to how policy and law ought to be formulated. Our next speaker is Regis Pecos. He's from the Cochiti Pueblo. He serves as the Chief of Staff to the New Mexico House of Representatives Majority Floor Leader, and he also serves as Director of Legislative Affairs for the House Majority Office. Regis?
Ko tsi hopa. Tseom ko hue, ye tsi ho at the keishimi, mani karstiono. Tuna you eat a chase 8 shall new hours go money. At the sum and a keistra ho hat the amos ke at skuno. You tutre at the Senator Inouye. At the amo gutni, go not me, queen not me. You tutru akch. Not do a hat skakuno. Not do a hat the samat you with tano. Who ho keishim it mani karstiono. Do not you eat a chase 8 shall new out go money. Who yenya sutruste. In the language of the Cochiti people where I was born, raised, and where I live, and where I have served as governor and a member of our tribal council, I'm grateful for this moment and this opportunity to honor our dear friend, Senator Inouye, to have the opportunity to give thanks for being blessed with such a tremendous spirit of a beautiful human being who we have come to love for what he did, not for us, but with us along the way to sustain those things that define who we are as a people. And today, in our traditional way, I use our mother corn to feed his spirit, to say thanks for his contributions. A life epitomized by love, a life epitomized by respect, a life epitomized with deep passion and compassion for us. Our elders tell us that as long as we respect our mother corn with which we pray, that we shall never perish as a people. We will never starve physically or spiritually. So this morning I give my breath on behalf of the people of Cochiti and for all people in this nation and this world, for all that he contributed. Hue shatse hatitsi kutashe kohname kukuiname diuach. Tsi tuni kutsina so kohname kukuiname sama diutruita. May your spirit continue to guide us as you guided us in your time on this earth, as the sun shined upon your spirit. I want to share something with you personally that is my first encounter with him. That created a lasting friendship. I told him this story as a way for him to understand the deep ways of our connections to what we call the gifts of our Creator. This is a picture of my father and my brother. And in this next frame is a story that reflects what I shared with him to bring understanding to him. I shared with him in his office that all of our prayers, all of our songs, all of our ceremonies were gifts of the Creator. And we all, as this indigenous peoples, have stories of origin, stories of creation, and stories of emergence into this physical world. And the gifts of the Creator of Mother Earth upon which we step onto as we journey from the physical world, from the spiritual world into this physical world. The gift of language, language that gives us the tools and the means to understand our place in this universe and to be a meaningful part of this universe. The gift of a prescribed way of life that defines who we are as a people. The gifts of governance, of laws and customs given to us for the maintenance of our relationships, a process to maintain the balance of people in our communities. The gift of family, I told him, where we first learn the core values of essential means by which we know how to love and how to respect and how to have deep compassion for one another. And the gift of family, or the gift of community that we belong to, and where there are many teachers of these core values to guide us in our journey through life. I shared with him the gift of the resources to sustain us in our journey. Water as the heart of that gift, the giver of all life. And in this next circle of connection I shared with him are the core values that bring to life the spirit and the connection of deep connection that defines a sacred trust of one generation to another that defines the inheritance of one generation to the next. And he shared with me how proud he was as the oldest in his family, as his father was the oldest in his family, as his grandfather was the oldest in his family. And the duty of this trust to one another, to give the most essential values that guide what we do in our lives from one generation to the next. And I explained to him our ceremonial cycle that moves daily and weekly and monthly from one season to the next. That is a process of affirmation, a process of validation of these connections. And as Dr. Menard Begay has taught me to understand that as we wake each morning and come into this consciousness, to have good thoughts, and in prayer be able to articulate and ask for guidance, that in the course of our journey that we are guided by core values in all our relations. In the morning as we greet the sun, in the evening as we reflect on how well we lived by the core values during the course of the day. And as I finished this story, he stood up and he extended his hand, and as I reached for his, he pulled me, embraced me, and he said, "Son, you must tell this story to others that they might appreciate who you are and who the people are that you represent that are deeply connected to the gifts of the Creator." And as I shared with him why I came to see him, it was because of the result of the construction of one of the largest man-made lakes in this world upon our lands that destroyed and disconnected us from a way of life overnight, devastated the gift of a place of worship in the maintenance of our spirituality in this journey. And he stood up again and he said, "These are the stories that my colleagues here must understand. And you're blessed not to be angry." And I shared with him that the elders in our community have taught us, I told him, that our enemies, as we perceive them to be, are always the best teachers of compassion. And he said, "Be patient. Be patient as you rise to this challenge in the way that the sacred serpent that you know of water, the river, reshapes rock into different forms in his spirit of patience." And there I recognized that this incredible individual had a different notion of power. Not political power, but this incredible gift of the art of persuading attitudes and behaviors that, as I described, our people cannot stand to be in the same place with the representatives of this institution who has devastated us, the Corps of Engineers, on behalf of the United States of America. And I asked him, "Senator, can you please come to see firsthand what this is doing in threatening all of the gifts of the Creator?" And he said, "Son, as the chairman of this committee, I will come to see your people." And he came to this little village of Cochiti. And the people of Cochiti, in their welcome, shared all of these core values and the stories of how they learned the core values that connected them so deeply to this place that we call home. And as people shared stories, I sensed that this was great joy to him to recognize the deep affection of place, of his recognition of what the gifts of the Creator meant to the people of Cochiti. Because at the heart of the maintenance of this way of life was always in all that we do as prayers, and I shared with him, is that we do this for the sake of the children, knowing that how we treat our children will define the kind of caretakers they will become in time. And that the heart of well-being to any community is the health of family. And the vitality and the spirit of where we come from, our communities, is that reciprocal relationship of how we as individuals nurtured by those who love us in the family eventually become part of a larger family of community. And as we shared our core values, he smiled and he said, I believe there is a story to tell here that will be our place of how we persuade. And the audience at that time in our community, present in that audience in his time of visit to that place to see the devastation of this huge footprint upon our homelands, were all of the decorated leaders of the U.S. Corps of Engineers. And he said to them as we told our story, this isn't the way that this United States of America will continue to treat the first Americans. It is not acceptable in this great country of ours, as we see the veterans of this community who came to the call of this nation in time of need, to be subjected to injustice in their own country, upon their own homelands. And he looked to where the leadership of the Corps of Engineers sat, and very gently the power of the art of his persuasion said, this will not continue, right? And they responded, yes, sir, this will not continue. A pivotal moment in time that defined a different path that brought both of us to the halls of Congress for an ultimate settlement to restore the lands. And as we were pressured to give up those lands for compensation, he would call someone equally a close friend as Senator Stevens, Senator Domenici. And Senator Domenici was not yet on board. And I was in an office one day, picked up the phone, and he said, called Senator Domenici, and I could hear Senator Domenici answer on the other line. And he said in a very affectionate way, not Senator Domenici, he said, Petey, I've got one of your constituents in my office, and we need to help their cause. And he responded, Danny, we will work together to rise to the challenge of addressing this issue of the people of Cochiti. And so it was, he gave us the opportunity to tell our story to many people in the halls of Congress that resulted in a second chance that indigenous communities in this country and sometimes in this world don't get. And as we celebrated our success and our accomplishments, I said something when he came back to Cochiti to celebrate that occasion of triumph that he'd never let me forget. And I shared in that room of the people of Cochiti and our little community that Senator Inouye single-handedly championed our cause. And he said, you got that right, single-handedly. And he would always remind me in the way that he accepted what I said. and he knew how deeply I meant that. And he told the elders in that community that I expressed to him that the devastation had reduced people I admired and honored in my lifetime to a sense of hopelessness and helplessness. That as I look back at that time, I still get emotional to see the people reduced to a sense of helplessness. But on that day, he told the elders of our community and our tribal council, he said, today, in his deep voice, today David killed Goliath. And it brought smiles to the people. But that's who he was to us. David slayed Goliath. No one gave us a chance in those times. But he always remembered in that discussion that all of the gifts of the Creator, our land, our language, our way of life, our indigenous laws and customs, our natural resources, education, and health are all interrelated. One, to give strength to the core values that guide individuals, that give strength to family and communities. And he would share with us and advise us. Never let anyone isolate what is otherwise a beautiful integration of the gifts of the Creator that reinforces the core values of your people. That in this time of self-determination, he would remind us of our sacred trust, that in this time of unprecedented opportunity, be mindful in the policies you make, in the decisions that you make, to always consciously ask, are the decisions we're making today strengthen our core values, or are the decisions we're making driving us further away from our core values? And he had great appreciation as we look to the future, to reflect upon the past, to remember all who have gone before us, who sacrificed and sometimes gave their lives to define our inheritance. That as we look 100 years back to the generations of our parents, our grandparents, our great-grandparents, the policies and laws imposed upon us create for the fragile nature of our existence, of the maintenance of core values, of the gifts of the Creator. And he said this is a very important time in our collective journey, that we must be responsible for the fulfillment of a sacred trust to future generations. That what we do and the decisions we make today already affect our children, already affect our grandchildren. We must be mindful to think, what will the children of the future, how will the children of the future reflect upon us in this time? Will they celebrate as we celebrate the resiliency of those who have gone before as we do today? Will future generations of children celebrate that what we did today defined their inheritance, that they too will reflect upon us as we do our forefathers, that we also were resilient because we fulfilled our sacred trust to transfer the knowledge that connects us to that time, our elders say, since time immemorial, since the origin and the emergence and the creation of our journey in this physical world. So the people of Cochiti always remember that our duty is to children and our duty is to family. And he would always remind us as we shared with him that all of our prayers end. Iwas han kachutsini. Hartsame kukoe met napatsani. Hansish go iwas kachutsini. That we all that we do with the gifts of the Creator to us as individuals. Some are given the gift of intellect. Some are given the gift of vision. Some are gifted with the ability to communicate. Some are given the gift of deep compassion. Some are given the gift of creating. Some are given the gift of healing. So as we welcome the spirit of a sacred child into this world, it's our collective responsibility to nurture the spirit of that child, to contribute consciously to what kind of caretakers they will become. And in this photo are all of the people of Cochiti, grateful to the senator, unlike anyone before him, who has come as a gift to us along this journey with such deep sensitivity, such deep understanding of the gifts of the Creator that define who we are, and when those gifts are threatened, how we respond. So as we find ourselves at this point in our journey, he would also remind us that as we look forward to the future, we have to always be conscious of what we do to contribute to define what future generations will inherit from us. That the way we honor all those who've gone before us, who define our inheritance, that today we can still represent the places of our homelands, that we could still celebrate our mother tongue, that we can still come from some of the oldest indigenous forms of governance, with the oldest indigenous laws and customs guiding the maintenance of the vitality of our communities. We shared with him this story of the gifts of the Creator and the interrelated nature of those gifts that together give birth and the breath of life to a living spirit we refer to as the right to existence, sovereignty of these nations. Sovereignty we define as the gift of this living spirit. The right, as we nurture this spirit, the right of our existence in this world. So as we look to the future, let us be mindful that in all that we do, it's for the sake of the children, to contribute to define what kind of caretakers they will become. And the question in honor of the senator for me is, what will be your contribution in defining the inheritance of future generations? He created, as was shared earlier, the opportunity for us to tell our stories that resulted in the convergence of these stories to a sense of belonging in this place, with a clear sense of the right to exist in this place, guided by these core values. He created the opportunity for us together to champion the causes and to rise in the face of these challenges and realize the spirit of triumph, guided by our core values. So today, for me, for the people of Cochiti especially, and for the Pueblo people of New Mexico, and safe to say, for all indigenous people, let us honor him and be mindful that in all that we do, it's for the sake of the children, that future spirits who come into this world can step onto a place that they can call home, a place to belong, a place to worship, with a language that provides them the understanding that it all is about how we are good human beings, and to always be mindful of the question that we all should be asking in all that we do. As the prayers end, how are your children? And in sharing that prayer with him, he would say and remind me, all of us should never rest until we know that we have done everything possible to answer the question of how are our children, and to respond to say they are blessed, Senator. And thank you, Senator, for all that you did to bring back to life the core values as the basis of our telling stories. That out of the many stories told to him in his journey with us, it became one voice that has created an opportunity that at this point in time in our journey, let us ask the questions of what are we doing? Are the decisions we're making today strengthening our core values? Or are the decisions we're making today driving us further away from our core values? Because in the end, if we use core values in decision making to weigh the cost and the benefits, our elders say, the decisions you make guided by core values will never lie to you with regard to what the cost and the benefits are for the maintenance and the well-being mentally, physically, and spiritually for your people. And today, to share this story that epitomizes the genuine love and respect and compassion of this incredible human being, is a day that we share to honor him, to pay tribute, to remember him as we remember all those who've gone before in the teachings that they planted in their time with us, that we are now responsible for nurturing, so that future generations might inherit all that they contributed, that we can celebrate today. Thank you.